What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show, our last regular season edition of the show. We've got a 15-game slate on our hands. It is unfortunately not a Justin Fan Friday, as Justin has exercised his opt-out clause on 15-game late season slates. It'll just be myself and Mike Gallagher to walk through this. Gallagher is trying to shrink the screen as much as possible to fit all the games in. Mike, how are you doing on this? I'm not even going to say it's a fine Friday. It's not a fine Friday. Yeah. It's the worst. It's the worst day of the year. It's 15-game NBA basketball that we have to do content on, where there's 40 questionable tags. How are you?
Yeah, definitely not a TGIF kind of a day. Grinding away a little bit behind. I think I'm caught up on injury stuff, so this is going to hopefully be under an hour, and we'll kind of fly through some stuff. But yeah, a few teams got a lot to play for. A few teams are clearly punting. We saw some stuff get settled last night, and looks like some stuff settled. So, there's going to be some curveballs for sure today.
All right, let's get into the game-by-game stuff. Let's start with Chicago and Washington. Chicago wrapped up home court advantage for the second play-in game, the 9-10 seed, last night. And so they've got a bunch of questionable tags for rest on their injury report today. Nikola Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan with the questionable tags for rest. Alex Caruso, questionable tag, left ankle contusion. They're without Ayo Dosunmu and Andre Drummond here as well. This is not a deep team. They've been playing very tight rotations for a while now. So what are you expecting to see from Chicago tonight?
Yeah, so Billy Donovan said last night that they're going to talk to the medical staff about how they're going to approach this game with rest. As you mentioned, they are locked in to hosting the Hawks in the 9-10 game next week. I think the Qs are going to turn to O's. So, those guys will all be out. So Kobe's on like limited minutes watch. Billy Donovan floated out the idea of playing a half or something like that. So it's something that's very, very noteworthy later today. So he would start. And then if they sit everyone else, I guess it would be Javonte Green's still going to start. I kind of think it's going to be Omar Apatim, Dalen Terry, and then Adama Sanogo, who played pretty well last night, I thought, in all of the non-Vooch minutes. They did give it to all of him. So he would play probably a pretty good bit in a matchup we love, right? So he'd be pretty interesting today, just to note him. But we'll see. Obviously, if they do play DeMar, I should note DeMar has like a little cushion on Domantas Sabonis for the total minutes lead. And there's not really much to that. But I think that's cool. For him to be at his age to lead the league in minutes, he might care about that. Maybe he plays like a half to pad his lead on Sabonis. I don't think Sabonis is going to catch him though. Red alert that the Bulls have nothing to play for. They played really long minutes. Billy Donovan said he left his guys in too long last night. So perhaps the biggest red flag of the night, that you could get some short minutes.
On the Washington side, it's just as messy. So it's not super clear what this game will look like. But on the Washington side, they're without Marvin Bagley, Bilal Coulibaly, Tyus Jones, Kyle Kuzma, and Landry Shamet. And then they've got questionable tags on Denny Avdia, Rashawn Holmes, Eugene Omoyori, and Jordan Poole. So we're talking about essentially what could be basically the whole starting lineup except for Kispert left here. So what are your expectations on what we see from Washington?
Yeah, a lot going on here. If Poole didn't play, they probably would start. I think they would start Jared Butler. I don't think they're comfortable with Johnny Davis at the point anymore. So he would start for him. If they didn't start Denny, I think they would start Davis. So they put Corey Kispert at the 3. I think Patrick Baldwin Jr. is kind of locked and loaded. I would expect Tristan Vucevic. We might get the Vucevic matchup here, but I think the Bulls version is going to sit. So I think the rookie starts, probably plays mid-20s minutes, a little bit shorter minutes than I expected overall. OG Omoyori's minutes would be spiking a little bit if they're a little bit shorthanded at the 3-4.
Well, that's it. That's if he's able to play. He's also questionable.
Yep.
Report Omoyori. So
yeah. And then the Rashawn Holmes has been, questionable out. So we have him out. We'll believe when we see it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the note here is this game ultimately could get really, really shorthanded. I mean, there's a scenario here where I'm just trying to count through number of players Washington would have. If everybody who's questionable is out, they'd have Champagnie, they'd have Johnny Davis, they'd have Jared Butler, Corey Kispert. So that is Champagnie, Poole, Davis, Butler, Kispert. That's 5. Gill is 6, Baldwin is 7, Vucevic is 8, and Jules Bernard is 9. So we could have a situation where they only have 9 guys available. The Bulls might only have 8 or 9 guys available on the other end. So from a DFS, from a betting perspective, we've talked a lot about this in our internally of late with like Memphis. The risks of taking like unders on teams that just don't have many players available. You are like one ankle turn away from sweating like 42 minutes from somebody, or one foul trouble situation away from a guy's minutes really getting carried away. So they're really challenging situations to project. And this could be, I mean, incredibly bad basketball in terms of the Mike Gallagher bad basketball game of the night. I mean, this might be 2 rosters that are largely G League rosters, essentially, which will be super, super difficult to project. So the projection fragility on this game is potentially the highest on the slate tonight.
And as you mentioned, you just made baselines for Andrew Funk and Henry Drell on the Bulls. And if you're listening, I hope half of you people have never heard those names before. If you are, welcome to the Sicko Club.
Yeah. All right, let's move to Orlando and Philadelphia, a game that does have stakes and meaning tonight. Philadelphia, if they win out and Orlando loses out, they're out of the play-in. It's as simple as that for Philadelphia. They kind of backdoored a path here when Orlando lost that game to Charlotte. And they've got this one on their hands, which means it's just one other game after that, where Orlando plays at home against Milwaukee on Sunday, and Philadelphia has a pretty soft opponent. I'm forgetting who. Maybe it's like Brooklyn or something like that. So on the Orlando side, Franz Wagner, questionable with that right ankle sprain. He's missed the last 2 games with that ankle sprain. What are your notes or expectations on Franz's availability tonight?
So he was progressing according to Jamal Mosley, was doing some work, but got ruled out pretty early. That ankle sprain was real nasty. He had to get an x-ray on that. So definitely a chance he misses. We capped him a little bit. They are going to get Gary Harris back. We saw him sit. And they started Markelle Fultz in a back-to-back, which was a little bit of a surprise. We kind of mentioned it on the DFS show that, it was like one or the other. If Franz was out, maybe they roll the dice and play Markelle for his first back-to-back since October. And we took an under on him. That was a pretty sharp bet, betting on him wearing down there. So, I don't have a great read on it. Orlando's pretty good, first game of the day, so we should have a pretty good idea. And then if he didn't start, they'd probably would kind of go the same route here.
The other thing we saw in that back-to-back was Jonathan Isaac's minutes kind of limited on the back end. They played him a little bit more aggressively on the front end. Any thoughts on Isaac? Because this matchup in particular, right, as many big men as you could possibly get on the floor to get in the way of Joel Embiid are potentially possible. Any thoughts on what we might see from Jonathan Isaac minutes-wise? Because it's been a yo-yo of late. We've had a late tag ad that he sat out. Then we had like a 5-minute game. Then we had a 22-minute game. Then we had a 13-minute game last game. So what are your expectations for Jonathan Isaac tonight?
Yeah, probably mid-teens. I think that they want to. He just gets hurt all the time, but non-back-to-back, biggest game of the year kind of situation. He's been really good, so maybe they try to push him, but you can't really project that because he just has the rug pulled from him so many times because no fault of his own or the coaches. He just gets hurt all the time.
Yeah. All right. Philadelphia side of this game, Robert Covington is still listed out, but they've got questionable tags on Joel Embiid, Kyle Lowry, and KJ Martin. With the Philadelphia 76ers, you never know. I mean, this KJ Martin questionable tag, which shout out to Dank, it is the left great toe that he's being listed with today. This KJ Martin questionable tag wasn't there last game, and he was ruled out after the game had started. So who knows who else is injured for Philadelphia, but these are the 3 they've decided to let us know about. What are your expectations on the questionable tag for Embiid, Lowry, and KJ Martin today?
Yeah, they need to follow the lead of the Cavs and let them know about where your injuries are. They're gonna play, right? Like, this game's really big, not a back-to-back. They're rested. They've been off since Tuesday, so I'm pretty sure those cues are in. So this is really gonna be the first time in a while we're gonna see what should be a fully loaded first unit with Tyrese Maxey, Kyle Lowry, Tobias Harris, Kelly Oubre. I would expect to start over Batum, but I wouldn't be surprised if they flip that. And then obviously the big fella, Joel Embiid, would be starting there. But yeah, that was just nasty work from the Sixers about not even listing KJ Martin. But yeah, so that's pretty much where we're at. Again, should see pretty big minutes. Spread's pretty big. The market looks like they're expecting a pretty easy Sixers win here. Tough scene for #OurMagic.
Yeah, for sure. Brooklyn and the Knicks will go to that game. On the Brooklyn side of things, We've got out tags on Dorian Finney-Smith, Keita Bates-Diop, Jalen Martin, Ben Simmons, Dennis Smith Jr., and Dariq Whitehead. We've got doubtful tags on Cameron Johnson and Day'Ron Sharpe. And then we've got a questionable tag on Dennis Schroeder in addition to a probable tag on Jacob Gilyard. No tags associated with Mikal Bridges, who, as you see on the last game log, was the odd man out in terms of the starters. Most of the starters playing 33-plus minutes. Mikal Bridges down at 23 minutes. So what are your notes on Mikal Bridges and the rest of the Nets tonight?
Yeah, after the game, Kevin Ollie said Mikal's fine, wasn't injury related. He was on the bench. I kept watching him. I was waiting for him to check in. We had an over on him. It was really nasty stuff against the Raptors. Really close game. So this wasn't garbage. They were subbing guys in and out. They were subbing guys in one at a time. But yeah, we came down to 30 minutes on Mikal. Pretty tough scene. This isn't like Iron Man or anything related. Maybe it is, but he's not injured, so he's good to go. And then, it's the welcome to Clown Town. Noah Clowney, 7 blocks the last game, was awesome. He's going to play upper 30s again, I would say. Matchup's quite bad after having one of the best possible ones. So he'll be starting. Claxton should be starting. Obviously, Cam Thomas. Mikal should still start. And then without Dennis Schroeder, they're pretty thin without DSJ. So we might see a Gilyard start. Maybe they run point Cam. I think that's kind of where I would lean. I think they would start Cam and at the point and then bring in Jalen Wilson. So a starting lineup of Cam Thomas, Jalen Wilson, Mikal, Clowney, and Bridges. And then you would see Jacob Gilyard in the rotation. Certainly a lot of Trendon Watford, who they like with even a little bit of handling. And it could get pretty tight. They're kind of running out of bodies here. So actually, I have to check do they have their like the Keon Johnsons of the world? Let me check that really quick.
The one note while you're checking that, the one note that I'd have here is I think a little bit less likely to get rug pulled on Mikal Bridges tonight. If Dennis Schroeder is unable to go, simply because when he got rug pulled in this past game, that was to get more minutes on the floor for Cam Johnson, for Jalen Wilson. Well, Cam Johnson's doubtful. Day'Ron Sharpe's also doubtful, who was in that rotation as well. And Jalen Wilson, if you're without Schroeder, I think it's easy to find him minutes. It's not really that hard to find him minutes. So the question is, are they wanting to make minutes at Mikal Bridges' expense for Lonnie Walker, Jacob Gilyard, Keon Johnson, those types of players? And I don't think they've shown any interest in doing so. So I think there's maybe a little bit less of a chance of getting rug pulled on Mikal Bridges if he is truly not.
Lost your audio. Can't hear you, Dink. Popping out back in. Okay. Yeah, as you mentioned, minutes could be really thinning out here. So you'd be slotting Cam Thomas as a 1 instead of a 2, right? So you're naturally opening up more minutes at the 2-3. So that does make sense that it would be more of a trickle down to make Mikal Bridges' floor a little bit safer. So it's a little bit weird that Dennis Schroeder's availability could affect the floor of Mikal Bridges. Still waiting for Dink to come back, but that's pretty much where we're at. So yeah, big Q tag on Dennis Schroeder.
All right, I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Well, you're good.
Okay. So what I was saying is that they were trying to create minutes for Jalen Wilson before. That makes sense if that's the reason that Mikal Bridges' minutes came down. If they already have the ability to have those minutes for Jalen Wilson because Dennis Schroeder is unavailable, I think it's less likely that we end up in a rug pull situation if Mikal is really not hurt, which is kind of they just have shown no interest in playing Lonnie Walker, period. So I don't know that they're necessarily going to try to get more minutes for Lonnie Walker at the expense of Mikal Bridges. So we'll see up front, but obviously really frustrating with Mikal. And the other part of this is, maybe it's less likely to happen in a game against the Knicks where Mikal's playing against all of his college teams.
That's a good point.
So those are my notes on Brooklyn.
And I just noted if you're slotting Cam Thomas as a 1, you're opening up more minutes at the 2-3. So you kind of just need him.
Yep. Okay. Knicks side of the injury report, Isaiah Hartenstein listed out for left Achilles injury management. That is just a weird one to me because he was out there in garbage time yesterday, for a long stint of garbage time. And it's if you're planning, why not just take him out yesterday too of the garbage time? Why play him in the garbage time? But that one to me smells like the training staff got the tips after and we're like, no. We're not playing him tomorrow. Jalen Brunson listed probable right leg, lower leg contusion, and Miles McBride listed questionable with a non-COVID illness here. We have seen a little bit more confidence in Bojan Bogdanovic of late. We've also seen Precious Achiuwa play meaningful minutes in the games that Hartenstein has missed before, but those were without Mitch Robinson. What's your expectation on what we see? Mitch Robinson's minutes have been pretty managed so far, in part because Hartenstein's been so good. But what are your thoughts and expectations on what we see from the Knicks tonight?
Yeah, first time Hartenstein had cleared the 30-minute mark since the break, since he kind of had this injury. So that was a big number. And as you mentioned, he was in there way too long. So yeah, they're going to sit him today. I think they probably feel pretty comfortable they could get this game without him. So yeah, we split the minutes down the middle of Mitch Robinson and Precious Achiuwa, so expecting them to handle that. We'll see what's up with Deuce. Maybe they extend the rotation, bring Alec Burks back, obviously. Jalen Brunson, I think he got dinged up. I think he kind of collided with Jaylen Brown and was down for like a second. His teammates helped him up. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be in there. Again, Brunson's on a freaking heater right now. Probably making a run at like second team All-NBA, honestly. But yeah, they're still going for it. They care about seeding, so I would expect, no funny business here. Josh Hart, awesome game again, made great play after great play, according to Tom Thibodeau yesterday. So, yeah, other than the center note, pretty much expecting full go on these guys.
Yeah, and Brunson, it was interesting that time that he got knocked down was taking a charge on Jaylen Brown. He was actually grabbing at his wrist, so he's listed with the leg thing. But if you listen to JJ Redick's podcast, man, who is he interviewing this with? Man, I forget what the edition that it was, so bear with me. But he talked about an injury listing that he had in Philadelphia one year.
Yeah, it was with Bob Myers.
With Bob Myers, yeah, it was the Bob Myers podcast where he talked about how the players have discretion over how they're listed in terms of like what the injury is generally. And there was this one time that JJ did not get discretion; he did not get notified, and they listed him with stomach cramps, and he was like furious because he was like illness or nausea or whatever, but not stomach cramps. Like I'm gonna get razzed relentlessly on this. So maybe it's a situation where lower leg is what they're going with Brunson, but he was grabbing at the wrist that's taped up as well after that collision. Okay, let's go to Charlotte and Boston. On the Charlotte side of things, Mark Williams, Seth Curry, Cody Martin, LaMelo Ball all still out. Nick Richards and Grant Williams both questionable here, so potentially thin front court. What are you looking at for Charlotte tonight?
Yeah, I think one of those guys is in. I don't have a great read on this. Steve Clifford doesn't give injury updates, and the Hornets don't have many guys to cover them, although Sam Perley and Rod Boone do great work. But yeah, don't have much to add. Obviously, we'd see a little bit more Marcus Bolden. He would be in the mix, especially if both of them miss. Maybe they play some Poku at the 5. Poku's been playing a pretty good amount of minutes there, getting pretty thin. But yeah, they're actually pretty motivated to lose. So I'd be a little nervous. They're kind of in a dead heat with the Spurs for number 3, which is you still have the top odds. You'd be in the third slot. So kind of important to lose out. So I'd be a little bit nervous about some rug pulling. We did see some later Miles Bridges minutes. Tough days for the Bridges minutes.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the Boston side where they're on the back end of the back-to-back. We were surprised that all their main guys played last night. It looked like a rotation that was meant to get a final test, but the players did not look interested in having a final test. Very kind of lackadaisical approach on the court from Boston last night. We've got Q tags galore today. Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Jason Tatum, Derek White, all listed questionable, and notable the probable tags on some of these G League guys who've been out of late. Nemes Keita, Jordan Walsh, JD Davison, all listed probable here. So what tea leaves are you reading here on Boston?
Yeah, the Maine Celtics, formerly known as the Maine Red Claws, they lost last night, so they're going to play in the game 3 of the. So they're on a back-to-back. I think they're going to play. I think all these guys are sitting, man. Like we kind of talked about in the DFS show. This is like, okay, let's just try to win this one and then just shut it down. They have nothing to play for, so I think they're going to sit everyone. So I'm expecting a starting lineup of Peyton Pritchard, Jaden Springer, Svi Mikhailuk, O'Shea Brissett, and Luke Cornett. And again, those main guys, they're not too far away. They're going to be there, I think. So they'll have all those G League guys, and then pretty much play the B League and C League team in the spot.
All right. All right. Let's go to Indy and Cleveland on the this is a game with stakes as well on this slate, as Indy is trying to lock in their playoff spot. They're also all fighting for seeding in this range as well. On the Indiana side, they've got their G Leaguers listed questionable, which is often the case. They've also got a questionable tag on Isaiah Jackson. They've listed Benedict Mathurin out. So fairly stable situation here from Indiana. The Isaiah Jackson Q tag, the most notable. What are your thoughts on the Pacers?
Yeah, there are 3 games today that have big implications. There's one in the Eastern Conference. It is this one. There is massive stakes for both of these teams. I expect huge minutes from these guys. So yeah, if you wanted to play a game aggressively in DFS, this is, and we don't like to play Cleveland. They play slow. Their defense has been slipping a little bit, but we know we're gonna get full go, no nonsense BS from these 2 teams. Isaiah Jackson, who cares? Like, he's pretty much out of the rotation anyway. So yeah, they're good to go. We might see some 40s maybe. Again, this is just huge for these teams to win this one. This is like a potentially a play-in-ish to maybe getting home court kind of thing if you could kind of win this one.
Yep. On the Cleveland side, they've listed Donovan Mitchell available. They're without Dean Wade and Ty Jerome, and then they've got Sam Merrill listed doubtful here. So what are your expectations for what we'll see from Cleveland?
Yeah, Donovan out 100% according to GB Bickerstaff, and he says he expects him to be 100% by the time the playoffs come around. So he hasn't had, he looked a little bit better last game, had a little bit more drive to his game, which he was not in his game earlier, like when he first returned from the knee thing. So he looks pretty good, kind of rounding into form. But again, they're gonna let him loose. They gotta get this game. So we haven't seen Donovan hit a ceiling, and maybe it's today. So after a dreadful first half, they were able to lock in and kind of handle their business against the Memphis D team. They're going pretty far down the line. We'll get to them eventually. But yeah, expecting very tight normal rotations here. And should note that again, they did the one big thing again. They basically split the center minutes and then didn't really overlap Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. They haven't been playing a lot together late in games, and it's hurt their minute ceilings a little bit.
Atlanta and Minnesota. Atlanta, as we alluded to before when talking about Chicago, their position is locked in. They will have a road game as the first of the play-in in Chicago. They've got a questionable tag on Clint Capella for rest, a questionable tag on AJ Griffin for a right ankle sprain, a questionable tag on DeJounte Murray for a right quad contusion, and then out tags on Jalen Johnson, Seth Lundy, Wesley Matthews, Onyeka Okongwu, and Sadiq Bey. We got notifications yesterday from Atlanta that the timelines associated with Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu are 3 to 4 weeks, which essentially means that their seasons are most likely over unless we get some miracle run from the Hawks here. So what are your expectations for what we see from Atlanta tonight in a game that means nothing to them?
Yeah, nothing. So I think they're going to sit guys. So I expect Capella to sit. That would get Bruno Fernando in the starting lineup and play a lot. Mo Gay is more of a 4, but they'd probably play him at the 5 out of necessity if they did sit Capella. So yeah, I think he's going to sit. No reason to play him anymore. He's been playing pretty good minutes lately. So yeah, he'll be in. Kind of think DeJounte sits. No reason to play him. He's been playing a ton. We talked about how he had the best role in the NBA for a little bit before Trae Young returned. Should note Trae Young was trending for almost 30 in his return, but they sat everyone out. They decided to play the kids down the stretch. So we saw a lot of Kobe Buffkin, Trent Forrest, Mo Gay, I just mentioned, and Bruno in a game that they lost, which doesn't matter anymore anyways, really. So, but yeah, the Trae minutes, they were kind of, quote, in the ballpark. They wanted to kind of get, Snyder said that they liked his conditioning. So expecting more. I haven't got to the minutes yet, but I'd be 28, 29. I think they want to kind of get him going. And his left hand was fine. He was diving, he was finishing left. He was his hand, he was taped up. He had a wrap on it and all that. But as far as his play, he looked good. So could be a pretty big Trae Young role with a little bit of a cap on him though.
Yeah, I mean, when you say 28 to 29, you mean that is the high end of where he could get, or you mean that as a base expectation? Because a 28, 29 production. Okay, so you think he could play 33?
Yeah.
That seems like such a big jump from 21 if they're saying that. If they're saying,
well, they wanted to put him back in
range.
There. No, they want. I think I took it as 24, 25, and they just kind of held him out to play the kids. But they were trending to getting him there. It was game script is why he didn't play. It wasn't because he hit the limit. It wasn't because he hit the limit.
Okay, But I guess my point.
Okay, so
I guess my point is my point is more that if they are if the idea behind a big jump is they're trying to get him caught up, what would the spread matter of this past game? Why wouldn't they just get him to 24 or 25? Like 21 to 28, 21 to 33 would be like a massive jump. So that's why I'm saying, like, it just seems like this was a much tighter restriction than I anticipated. So I'm skeptical. They have one more game after this. So I think if they went in increments of 21 to like to 27 or 28, but meaning that, our base projection should be like 25, 26 or something like that. Yeah. Then up to like 30 to 31 in the last game. And I also think in the last game, I think we'll see DeJounte play in the last game, because I think there will be some benefit to having these guys play together. But I think it's right that they'll sit DeJounte tonight. But I was surprised by 21. There were weird comments around that minutes limit before, where they were like poo-pooing the limit, that it was more about trying to make sure that he was conditioned. And then 21 is just a really low number for a starting result.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to say, like, the minutes limit cut him down a little bit in the first three quarters, but I don't think he didn't hit his limit. Snyder said he didn't hit his limit. They could have played him more, but they wanted to play the kids. That was kind of the plan. I talked about this a couple shows now, that Snyder said that they want to get tape on Mogay and Kobe Buffkin, and that's why they did it. I don't think it was because of the limit.
Yeah, I think if they're trying to get, that would signal to me that they're not trying to get him aggressively to a number, because otherwise they would have prioritized him getting to a number as opposed to like building. So I'm a little bit more conservative on what the limit will look like tonight, but we'll see. They don't have a lot of time, because they have, when you're playing in the play and you're playing Tuesday or Wednesday, essentially. So they don't have much time to get this stuff going. All right. Minnesota side of the game, Karl-Anthony Towns expected to return tonight, way ahead of schedule on this left meniscus tear. He's listed questionable, but all the reporting has been signaling that he's coming back. We've been very skeptical of this, so I assume there will be hard minutes restrictions. What are your expectations for Karl-Anthony Towns and his return tonight?
Yeah, so he blew this timeline out of the water. Lateral meniscus tears have a 6 to 8 week timeline. So if he hits 6 weeks from his surgery date, that's April 23rd. He beat this thing by 2 weeks. This is really crazy for him to go ahead and get out there. So mad props. I'm big time wrong on this, but 6 to 8 weeks is a standard timeline from lateral meniscus tear. So this is like a miracle that he's back this soon. So he posted the workout video on his Twitter that I retweeted. So he's ready to go. We got a cap on him and big spread, so expecting a little bit of a ramp up, but just cleared through for 5-on-5 on freaking Tuesday. And he's already cleared. This is one of the fastest recoveries of any injury I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, mad props to him. Expect him to start, I think. Maybe they go Naz Reid one more, but so we got him. I think we landed at 23-24 for him, expecting a limit. And then, they still want to try to get this one seed. Certainly an uphill climb to do that. Going to need some help from Denver's opponents. They're big Wembanyama fans tonight. But, they're going for it. They're, 2-3 seed also in play. So expecting pretty full minutes, except for Cat.
And they have the tiebreaker over Denver. Those teams split the games against each other this year, but against common division opponents, Minnesota has a better record. So they have the tiebreaker over Denver. They just need Denver to lose a game and them to win out. But big spread here. So imagine that you will get some version of blowout minutes, likely if Atlanta sits all their players as well. All right, let's go to Denver and San Antonio. On the Denver side, they've got a bunch of probable tags here. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Zeke Naji, Michael Porter Jr., all listed probable. Sounds like, Denver certainly talked the big game. I mean, Michael Malone talked the big game about it being a really big game. Jokic poo-pooed that and said it's just another game. The minutes were not that of a big game. I mean, Michael Porter Jr. got high, Jokic was high, but like Aaron Gordon 28, Jamal Murray 27, still in restriction. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope 26. There was some foul trouble in there, but they just got such great production from Peyton Watson and Christian Brown in this game. Now they play a Spurs opponent that gave them trouble in Denver before. That was a really close game. We'll have Wembanyama back tonight. What are your expectations on what we see from Denver tonight?
Yeah, they're going to play. Michael Malone said after the game that they're his first comments basically were like, hey, we won, but we got to get ready for San Antonio, make sure we handle our business after a really big win, biggest win of the year for them. So, yeah, full go. Jamal Murray still capped, though. As I mentioned before, he's on a cap for the rest of the season. So, And they pushed it. Jamal Murray, they wanted to sit Jamal Murray in this back-to-back game, but Jamal basically said, hell no, I'm going out there with my guys and getting this win, and he played great. But yeah, the big takeaway was, man, Christian Braun and Peyton Watson, 6 blocks from Peyton Watson, just a freaking great game. And I was thinking while I was driving to my hike the day after, I was like, man, like, I think Denver's more likely to make it to the finals than the Celtics are. And I think yesterday's evidence makes that even seem more likely. This team's good, man. Like, they're not missing Bruce Brown at all. Peyton Watson and Christian Brown are just – we know their starters are the best in the NBA. And now that they got Peyton Watson somewhat reliable, Reggie Jackson's been a little hot and cold, and Christian Brown, they got their 8. I think that's huge. So I think Denver's going in with all the momentum in the world right now.
Yeah. The interesting – what do you think the cap is on Murray? I think it's 30.
30. It's 30. Yeah. I'm pretty confident it's 30.
Yeah. Okay. San Antonio side of things, as I mentioned, Victor Wembanyama will be back tonight. He's not listed on the injury report, but plenty of his teammates are. Out tags for Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohans, Jetty Osman, Keldon Johnson, Malachi Branham, Charles Bassey, and Dominic Barlow. So Malachi Branham, the new one on there with concussion protocol.
Mm-hmm.
What are your expectations on what the rest of the Spurs rotation looks like tonight alongside Victor Wembanyama?
Yeah, that's a big out tag on Branham. They are out of wings here. So we're leaning Devontae Graham filling in here as we're getting the 230s rolling in. We could talk about the Bulls downgraded some guys, which we kind of knew was coming. So yeah, we're leaning Devontae Graham. We saw Devontae Graham play a lot of overtime in that Philly game, so I think that makes sense that they would go with him. So expecting a starting lineup of Trey Jones, Devontae Graham, Julian Champagnie, Sandro Mamakavashvili, and then Wemby. Probably a little bit of overlap with him and Zach Collins. David Duke, I think, is a dark horse to start. Maybe they start Blake Wesley and run them together. I think it just makes more sense to bring him in behind Trey Jones to cover your ball handling that way. But I wouldn't be surprised if they started Blake Wesley. City Sissoko would also be playing a dark horse to start as well. They could start Champagnie at the 2 and play City in that spot. So, yeah, very unclear here. Leaning with the veteran, not confident at all. But one thing we do know, getting tight, running out of minutes. So you could get a pretty hefty workload on these guys in a game that's, as you mentioned, I think they want to win this one. I think that they care about the home court. Is this their last home game? I'm not sure, but I think this is expecting a lot of minutes here.
Yeah, they close at home against Detroit, so
okay.
They still have one more. The one thing when we talk about tight relative to some of these other teams, they still have plenty of guys with Sissoko and David Duke Jr. and Bouye and Gray and Grant. Like, they still have 10, 11, 12 guys, something like that available to them, I think. So it's not like the Chicago-Washington situations that we were talking about earlier that could get really, really down, or the Memphis situation we've talked about at length. So yeah, all right.
Their guards are getting thin. It's a lot of front court. Their guards are getting pretty thin now.
They would have Trey Jones, Bouye, Wesley, and Graham. So four point guardish type players. I think that's enough to get through.
Yeah.
For sure. Lakers Memphis side. Lakers, we had Anthony Davis upgrade to probable, which is great. He missed the last game, the big game against the Warriors, which was disappointing. LeBron James still questionable with the left ankle. The Lakers are in a position where we'll know a lot more after today in terms of whether Sunday matters for them at all, because there's a chance it doesn't really matter for them. But if they win out, they just need to catch a loss essentially from Golden State and Sacramento in their back in the 8 spot, and they're back in avoiding kind of the play-in situation. They don't have the tiebreaker on those teams though. So if they lost tonight and Sacramento and Golden State won, they would have nothing to play for on Sunday. Most likely they will have something to play for on Sunday, because most likely they will win tonight in Memphis. But what are your expectations on what we see from this LeBron James questionable tag tonight?
No, he's good. We'll be pretty surprised if he didn't play. Anthony Davis was more ill. We saw that eye thing cut him down, but apparently it was like an illness thing, according to Darvin Ham. Said he wasn't a doctor and couldn't talk too much into it. AD said he's in a good place today. So yeah, full go. Obviously they're going to try to get this win as much as they can. So certainly some garbage concerns. That's really the only concern on the minutes for these guys after almost blowout. I guess you could say it was a blowout loss at home against the Warriors as they lit them up from 3.
Yep. Okay, and then let's go to the Memphis side where, as always, the Memphis Eights. They've lost the Grizzlies tag. They are just the Eights. They're always going to have 8 guys available. They're going to find one way or another. So listed out: Santi Aldama, Desmond Bain, Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson Jr., Luke Kennard, John Conchar, John Morant, Derrick Rose, Marcus Smart, Lamar Stevens, Hito Watanabe, Vince Williams, Zaire Williams. That means what we have left is Jake LaRavia, Gigi Jackson, Trey Jemison, Scottie Pippen Jr., Jack White, Timmy Allen, Xavier Simpson, and who am I missing? Is that it? No, I'm missing somebody. I'm missing somebody because Lamar Stevens was out last game. So
do you count Goodwin? Do you count Goodwin?
Goodwin, that's who it is. It's okay. Goodwin over Stevens. So it's basically the same group that we had last game with Goodwin over Stevens. 8 guys available, as we've seen with the Grizzlies. Even when they're only scoring like 85 to 90 points, when you got 8 guys available, you can generate fantasy performances. So what are your expectations from the Grizzlies tonight?
Yeah, Jake LaRavia goes 6 for 6 from 3 to get to 32 points. Monster game. And I can't face the Gigi Jackson 36 minutes, man. I can't face it. Like he gets up there, 18-point spread, and they give him full minutes. I'm so mad. I was tilting it the whole time because I thought his minutes were going to be up in previous games. Should also note this is Trey Jemison's last game. So if he goes today, he would be ineligible to play on Sunday to cap. So, but yeah, expecting the starting lineup of Scottie, Pippen, Goodwin, Gigi Jackson, Jake LaRavia, and Trey Jemison. As you mentioned, the bench basically the same. So Jack White, Timmy Allen, and Xavier Simpson.
All right, let's go to Milwaukee and Oklahoma City. On the Milwaukee side, out tag for Giannis Antetokounmpo, AJ Green, Damian Lillard, Jalen Galloway. Available tags for Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez. Surprising, interesting combination of players. We know Giannis is out. We know Lillard's now dealing with an adductor soreness issue. But to have Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez all available tonight in a game in Oklahoma City where they're 13.5-point underdogs, a little bit surprising to me. What are your expectations here on what we see from Milwaukee?
Yeah, expecting basically you're slotting Chris Middleton into Damian Lillard's spot. So I'm expecting a starting lineup of Patrick Beverley, Malik Beasley, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, and Brook Lopez. And then the bench is basically the same. AJ Green did roll his ankle, so getting a little bit thinner. We'll see if maybe they bring in Marchand Beauchamp or somebody like that. But they'll probably run it pretty tight. Certainly they're pretty motivated to win this game. Should note they played Dame too much, man. Like I don't think this is like a hey, we want to sit you out. Like he probably hurt himself. They like out of the gate for an injury he's had multiple times in his career. They ran him unlimited, which is like cardinal sin for medical staffs. This is a quick side note, but certainly gunning for it. Tough matchup against OKC for sure, but expecting quite a bit of minutes. Bobby Portis, there's an article on The Athletic talking about how he said he's the 6th man of the year. As someone who is heavily invested in Bobby Portis 6th man of the year stuff, I would agree with him. And look how easy it is, guys. Hey, Naz Reid starts and he goes off. Bobby Portis starts and goes off. It's not that hard. So yeah. But anyways, that's my Bobby Portis spiel.
Yep. Mark in chat asking what link has the most up-to-date available players, including G League guys for today. It's not really like one link that you got to combine looking at the NBA roster page on NBA.com and then the NBA injury report page. Those are the 2 links that in unison you can figure out who is left and who is available. And then before the games, you find out who gets listed inactive if they're trying to manage games. With the Grizzlies, they just have 8, and you have to have 8 to play. So those 8 are going to play. There's no more game management stuff for them.
They could do a fake active too. Well, Trey Jemison wouldn't be fake active; he'd be real active. They wouldn't be them do that.
So we ran into this issue with Tosan, right, for Detroit, where they DNPC'd him a number of times. Those still count against the games you can use with these guys. So you're not going to get any sort of fake active situations unless someone's hurt, unless someone's like legitimately hurt.
Yeah, okay, we've seen that like he's active, but he's hurt and they can't play him. We've seen that, but that's not the case in these ones. Should also note that Dylan Windler wasn't on the Hawks roster page yesterday, so we were a little unsure on that one. That was a little bit weird.
All right, Oklahoma City. On the Oklahoma City side, they've listed all their G League guys as available here: Adam Flagler, Keontae Johnson, Olivier Sarr, Lindy Waters, Yusman Jiang. Anything to read into that for Oklahoma City? They still have hopes of getting to the 2 seed, and I think they're out on the 1. Maybe they have like really outside.
They got to lose out, yeah.
Yeah, it's 6 things need to happen for them to go right, I think, for them to get the one. But what are your expectations for Oklahoma City tonight?
We did get a Josh Giddey ad just now on the 2:30 for a Q tag, so something to keep an eye on there. Obviously, if he didn't start, I think they would go Case and Wallace, but could be Aaron Wiggins. We know they've been mixing it up. Tough to get a read there. So, yeah, I think they're still going for it. They'll probably go for it today and then probably sit everyone on Sunday, assuming things don't break right for them tonight. If things break right for them, then sure, they'll go for it on Sunday. But I think the way things are going to go, they won't have anything to play for on Sunday and basically be the 3 seed, but expect full minutes here. Yeah.
All right, I am getting the fresh 2:30 injury report in front of me as well after the Giddey note there. Let's move to Toronto and Miami. On the Toronto side, they're without Scotty Barnes, Chris Boucher, DJ Carton, Jakob Pertl, Jonte Porter. They've got questionable tags on Bruce Brown and Gary Trent Jr. Notably not listed RJ Barrett or Emmanuel Quickley. So it sounds like we'll have both RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley tonight in what is a big game for Miami, not a big game for Toronto. What are your expectations on what we see from Toronto tonight?
Yeah, expecting them to have their guys back here. So Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, Gary Trent, if he's in, it would be Grady Dick, who returned. He would take his spot if he didn't play. RJ Barrett, Oche Akbaji, and Kelly Olynyk. I think I did that right. And yeah, the minutes would be felt off the bench. We'd see Malik Williams go to the bench. He'd play some minutes. Javon Freeman-Liberty would be probably locked in the minutes. War will be in pretty good mix for minutes. Bruce Brown also, I forgot to mention him. He'd be in there too. But keep an eye on those Q tags. Could see them getting downgraded to basically play the young guys.
In Toronto, not officially locked. They need one Memphis win or one loss from them to lock their 6th spot going into the lottery. But that does allow for the potential as a hashtag our Magic divisional bag holder, hoping a little copium here, a little hopium, I should say, that Toronto, maybe one of these 2 games will like play really full with their main guys in terms of like trying to end the season on a high note. I don't think it's going to happen tonight, but there is some hope that could happen. They end the season with both games in Miami. So you get the Friday night Miami nightlife for all these young Toronto guys. Then they get a full day off on Saturday and then come back to it on Sunday. Any thoughts on what we'll see in terms of rotation wise from Toronto now that they've largely secured their lottery positioning?
Yeah, I think they're going to go for it. As you mentioned, got 2 chances to do it. I think that the finale is reserved for the kids. Let the young guys play on their last day of the season. So if I had to pick a day where they go for it, and we're crossing our fingers for the Heat to drop one, I would pick this one.
Okay. All right, let's move to Miami side of things, where they've listed out Duncan Robinson and Josh Richardson. Terry Rozier is still questionable with the neck injury, and then they got available tags on Kevin Love, Nikola Jovic, and Tyler Hero. What are your expectations from the Terry Rozier questionable tag and what we see from the Heat tonight?
Yeah, pretty quick rollouts on this Rozier thing. We saw him play on Sunday. He said he shouldn't have played. Spoelstra said he appreciated him trying. So not a great read on the situation. It's Miami. We never know. But if he did start, I would expect him to start in Caleb Martin's spot, who did play a lot of minutes, as I expected in the matchup where they need the guard defense. Certainly Caleb will play a bunch. Highsmith locked in. Kevin Love locked in. Jaime Haka is getting cut down a little bit. They flip-flopped Patty Mills and DeLon Wright in the last game. We'll haven't looked at those yet, but that'd be a split situation if they didn't have Rozier. So, not a great read in the situation. Probably game time. We'll see if we get the Miami intent to play stuff there. So, not a great read on Rozier yet.
Okay, let's move to Detroit and Dallas. On the Detroit side, finally a doubtful tag on Cade Cunningham. So hopefully we have no shenanigans here, but Cade doubtful, out tags on Tosan, Simone Fontecchio, Quentin Grimes, Isaiah Stewart, Oscar Thompson, and Stanley Moody, and then a questionable tag on Jalen Duren with low back spasms. That these anytime a questionable tag comes up on Detroit now, it feels a little closer to doubtful, which is why I was kind of celebrating finally getting a doubtful tag on Cade. What are your expectations for Duren tonight?
Probably sitting, right? Back to back. Don't really have much to add there. It would be James Weissman getting the start, and then mega met 2 minutes we saw over the weekend when they didn't have Duren. I think he hit 40 minutes. So he would play a ton. And then, Marcus Sasser, Ivy playing a pretty good bit. Fournier playing a ton. Didn't really do much with his minutes yesterday. And then Malachi Flynn picking up some scraps. So all those guys would benefit. And again, they're pretty tight. Getting a little run out of bodies here without Tucson.
All right, let's move to the Dallas side of things, where Dallas, it's locked in. Clippers and Dallas are playing in the first round. Well, it's locked in that they're playing in the first round.
The matchup, yeah, yep.
Right.
Yep.
The location of where it is, we are one game away from it being locked up, either a Dallas loss or a Clippers win. The Clippers play at home against the Jazz tonight. So we're very close to having that locked up. But Dallas has already ruled out Kyrie Irving tonight. They're still without Derek Lively, and they've got a questionable attack on Luka Doncic with left ankle soreness. This feels like they're starting to prep for the playoffs and get some rest on some of their big players. They've played great basketball over the last 25 games or so, and are everybody's kind of fun rising team to pick in the Western Conference. What are your expectations on if we see Luka tonight?
I think he was at shoot around. I think he sits, man. I don't know. He's playing so much. He's hobbling around. His knees are all bloody. So I kind of lean sit, but maybe they go out there and try to get this game. Again, like the Clippers aren't losing tonight, right? So not really nothing to play for, but maybe I'm wrong. So yeah, I would expect Dante Exum to start in Kyrie Irving's spot. Certainly more Tim Hardaway Jr. We've seen Josh Green return, play a little bit. So those guys would pick up the Kyrie minutes. And if they didn't have Luka, then they probably would start. I kind of think they would start Hardy kind of out of nowhere, but they could start Dante at the point and then run Tim Hardaway Jr. Or even Josh Green. We know they started Josh Green in Kyrie's spot. So yeah, a little bit unclear with the Luka Q tag, but he's healthy-ish. It would just be like a rest situation.
Yeah, it seems like without Kyrie, without Luka Doncic, in the past we've seen that we've talked about this before, but the two guys who can really take on usage are Tim Hardaway Jr. and Jaden Hardy. Mm-hmm. So one of those guys getting elevated in the starting lineup to take a bunch of usage. Maybe it's a situation where you like elevate Dante Exum and Josh Green with Tim Hardaway Jr. and then let Jaden Hardy kind of take this big second unit usage role. I can see that happening, but it could be Hardy into the starting lineup as well here. Those are the two guys that they have as like insurance plans on creating offense without Kyrie and Luka. Okay, last few games to get through here. Houston and Portland, nothing submitted. Both teams on the second night of a back-to-back here. What are your expectations for either side here with Houston and Portland?
Yeah, a couple things. So we talked about this yesterday that Udoka said they were going to kind of go for it and try to get some wins. Before the game, he opened the door on some rest. He kind of said that, like, hey, they may try to rest some guys. I'm paraphrasing. And then he said that the guys didn't want to play. He was pissed. When you lose to Utah with the roster they trotted out there, you should be pretty pissed. So, yeah, this team's on red alert for rest for sure for the back end back-to-back road game. Definitely could see some rest. So, TBD. I don't know who. Udoka basically said like, oh, only Fred VanVleet, was caring enough to be out there. So. Jalen Green benched hardcore. He did not. I think he was pulled. I think he was at the table and got pulled out. So pretty wild turn of events. But yeah, on red alert, I can't really break it down. I don't know who's going to sit. I just know I think that there's a pretty decent chance. I would stay away in this spot. We love to play against the Blazers, but the comments from Udoka yesterday scare me off quite a bit.
Yeah, which could lead to a Cam Whitmore spot if we get some rest here, a showcase for some of the young players here at the end. The Portland side, I assume it's going to be the same that we've seen of late with all their main guys kind of out. What are your expectations for Portland?
Yeah, we're watching for Delano Banton. We saw him get the late Q tag for the ankle. And then me, I'm on Ashton Hagen's watch. He played last night. That means he has one game left. So I would assume if Banton is in, that means Hagens is out, and they would play Hagens on Sunday. So we'll be watching that. So we know this. We know 7. We know it's going to be the same starting lineup: Scoot, Rupert, Ayton, Chris Murray, Jabari. We know Duop Breath and Justin Manai will be in there, and then it'll be Ashton Hagens or Delano Banton for the 8th spot. Obviously, Banton would play a lot more, but yeah, that's kind of it. So that we talked about the Memphis 8. We could do the Portland Ochos for these guys.
All right, then some games that mean something tonight. New Orleans and Golden State, both teams on the second night of a back-to-back tonight. New Orleans, were without Larry Nance yesterday due to a personal issue. So we'll see if Larry Nance is back and available with the team. And then Golden State, they were without Klay Thompson and Draymond Green last night. What are your expectations for what we see from these two teams in the game that is the most meaningful game on the slate from a playoff odds perspective? This and the next one, we're going to talk about Phoenix and Sacramento.
Yeah, these are the two of the Western Conference games, and then the Indiana and Cleveland game are the three big games, as you mentioned earlier. Yeah, I don't know about Nance. I can't really get any information on the personal stuff. They need him bad. This is a matchup where they would want to put Larry Nance. So we saw Joel get 33 minutes. Cash my stills was flag plant worked out okay. But yeah, I mean, we talked about this. We said what? I set the line at 3.5 over 38.5. Good line. Three guys got over. Two guys just missed it. But yeah, Trey Murphy, 45. He'll play a lot again. They're going to need him. Good matchup. I think he's going to play quite a bit. Actually, almost cover boyed him. I like 3-point shooters against the Warriors. But yeah, keep an eye on Larry Nance. I don't have a great read on it. If he didn't play, they'd go small. We saw Jeremiah Robinson Earl sub in first, grand open and grand closing, and then they went with Mr. Available, Cody Zeller as well. So, but I expect them to get cut down. Somewhat surprising, Najee Marshall's minutes were really light, much to our chagrin. We had to sweat at Dyson Daniels under, but yeah, that Nance status is one of the biggest on the slate for a game that like really matters, because all these other teams are pretty much static and we kind of know what we're getting. They're important. Those three big games I mentioned.
And then Zion will probably see listed with something on the injury report, because he did go to the locker room yesterday, came back out in the second half and was just incredible in the third quarter, really kind of solidifying this game. I had Zion on the alt lines at 35 plus, so I needed a little bit more from Zion. So I missed that time we lost in the first half. Just 31 minutes was very disappointing for me and my alt lines on Zion, but I expect he'll be on the injury report with something, but it will be fine, would be my expectation.
Yeah, he tweaked his wrist. Yesterday. So yeah, probably get a Q tag, something like that. But he looked great. He's playing. I'd be pretty surprised if he wasn't playing. And I think, maybe that light minutes yesterday helps his ceiling today.
And then the report on Brandon Ingram was targeting Sunday against the Lakers. Yep. Do you think there's any chance that timetable gets adjusted given the magnitude of the game?
No, I don't. I mean, there's a chance, but it's Brandon Ingram. He's hurt all the time, and he misses his timelines all the time. So moving up on a timeline, I'd be pretty surprised about that.
Okay. And then Golden State side. So we mentioned Clay and Dre both missed last night. What are your expectations for them tonight?
Yeah, they're back. Steve Kerr literally said, quote, they rested them. So they're back. They're full. They tried to, roll the dice a little bit. They got a good game out of Portland yesterday. We talked about this on the DFS show. Like that 13.5 line was not adjusted enough. I didn't have the stones to fire at it, but they played Steph too much. Steve Kerr said, "Hey, I didn't want to play Steph that many minutes. The 36 is very unusual for him." He was asked about resting Steph. He said he's not going to do it. So expecting full minutes here. So the big question is, does Kuminga, who played pretty well, does he take over as a starter? I don't think so. There was some comments from Draymond Green saying like, he's been a pro about coming off the bench. We know that there was that story from The Athletic from Kuminga, a couple months ago, but expecting Trace Jackson Davis to still continue to start because they've been playing well. So starting lineup of Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, Trace Jackson Davis, certainly some CP3 off the bench. Pods. Looney played a lot. Looney played great yesterday. He had a really big impact. Part of the reason why they won. You can make a case that if Looney didn't play that well, they may have lost this game. He probably gets cut down significantly with Draymond and Clay back.
Yeah, they were really struggling on the boards, which a lot of teams have with Portland of late. They've been rebounding like crazy, and Looney came in and kind of stabilized things in that second half. All right, let's go to Phoenix and Sacramento, the other big game in the Western Conference. Phoenix has filed. They're not on the second night of a back-to-back. They are fresh. Damian Lee is out here. What are your notes on the Suns?
Yeah, minutes. Not a back-to-back. We saw the starting line. The biggest note for me is we saw that starting lineup change as my computer's going slow now. And we saw Royce O'Neal start after the game. Frank Vogel said that was a one-time thing. Now, I'm curious to see on when that decision was made. Did they make that decision when they found out that the Clippers were going to punt it? I don't know. My computer's going slow. So, but yeah, expecting Grayson Allen to start, and then I'm expecting like 40 minutes out of Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. We even got Bradley Beal at 37. That's high for him. So, cover boy Devin Booker. I think he's just going to play so much. He just puts the team on his back. Really good game. Shouldn't have needed a good game against the B League Clippers, but B team Clippers. But expecting a big Booker game today.
All right, Sacramento side, second night of back-to-back. This feels like a little bit of a last stand for Sacramento if they want to avoid kind of the second spot, the second play-in game, I should say. What are your expectations for what we see from Sacramento tonight?
Yeah, full go here. We saw a lot of minutes out of De'Aaron Fox as expected. Sabonis playing a bunch, Keegan playing a bunch. A lot of Harrison Barnes yesterday. Sorry, I'm closing some tabs here. But yeah, they're going for it. Mike Brown was not happy with how they played overall. They got kind of waxed, especially early. But yeah, they're gunning for this one. They've got, like you said, last stand. They gotta win a game here. They're really sliding, potentially falling from like the 5 seed to like the 10th seed.
Yep. All right, let's go to Utah and the Clippers to close this 15-gamer out. Utah on the second night of back-to-back. We saw last night, like with Utah, they are in experimentation mode. We saw in that with that experimentation mode, like from a DFS perspective, the chalk hit last night with Samanic and Taylor Horton-Tucker. But you can see with Yurt and how his minutes got yo-yoed that there's room for anybody to fail with Utah with how they're kind of experimenting now. Last night we saw a lot of Kenny Lofton Jr. Playing. What are your expectations for what we see from Utah tonight?
Yeah, same thing. For the starting lineup, that is Luka Samanic, who we thought was bad chalk yesterday, was bad take. Luka was fantastic. So yeah, expecting. I know what we're gonna get from the starters. I think we're gonna get the Keontae George, Johnny Juzang, Taylor Hendricks, Luka Samanic, and then Omer Yurtseven. And then we've been seeing like this kind of flip-floppy thing. We saw a lot of Kenneth Lofton yesterday. We've seen some Baisley. So be aware of anything for the bench guys. We saw that Taylor Horton-Tucker DMPCD on the 7th, I think it was, but he played a bunch. So yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, they ran it pretty tight. Michael Potter got cut out. I think they're going to probably run Lofton out there again.
Yep. And he's a very, very good fantasy point per minute producer, as you saw kind of last night. So an interesting name to keep an eye on. The challenge is obviously like he's a center, Yurt's a center, and they're competing for minutes. And so we saw Yurt kind of tank last night. The game before, Yurt was up way high. So it's kind of hard to project, but interesting names to follow for DFS stuff. Clippers side, they've listed Kawhi Leonard out once again. Josh Primo also listed out, and then James Harden questionable with right foot inflammation. What's your read on the Clippers? We mentioned before, they just need one win or a Dallas loss for them to secure home court in the first round. They are small favorites over the Mavericks on the betting markets right now. They also close with their last game at home against Houston, so a more challenging opponent, although we don't know what state Houston's going to be in. What are your expectations for James Harden in this questionable tag tonight?
Yeah, this is very much well, let's get this game, handle our business, and then we could shut it down on Sunday situation. So yeah, they're going to be full go. I don't know if Harden can play. We saw him not play down the in the stretch a couple games ago. Lou said it wasn't injury related, and he gets tagged with an injury, so a little unclear. It's the Clippers. We're not going to find out much, but I think he could go. If he didn't play, they would start Russ. We saw Russ play 40, and when he did start, so he would be in the starting lineup if Harden couldn't go. But one thing I wanted to know: what happens if Dallas loses? Like, so say, and this is a 2-hour time difference. So say, it's coming to halftime. They're like, oh, look, Dallas lost. We've got the spot locked up. Do they yank guys? Be like, oh, okay, just let's shut it down. This game doesn't matter to us anymore. I don't know. I kind of don't think they would do that, but it would be very Clippers-y to do that.
Yeah. I mean, certainly viable, right? They started Terrence Mann last game, played him just 8 minutes. So certainly viable that would happen. Dallas, they even if they don't start Luka and Kyrie, still against Detroit, like decent chance to be able to come out away with that win, especially without Cade, possibly without Duren as well. So I think the most likely scenario is the Clippers don't have the ability to make that choice tonight.
100%.
But we will see if they do. I wouldn't put it past them pulling things and just getting ready for next week, essentially. And then for those that are drafting playoff best ball stuff, is there anything you've got on Kawhi Leonard at this point? Because there was the tweet, I want to say about a week ago at this point, that was like, oh, he's present at shoot around with his teammates, but we haven't heard I haven't seen anything else since then. What's your notes on Kawhi, if any?
Yeah, you've heard of no news is good news. No news is bad news for Kawhi Leonard, in my opinion. So, yeah, I don't have much. It's Kawhi Leonard. We've got a track record of them hiding information on him. So, yeah, I've probably drafted I had a big draft 2 weekends ago. I have dialed way back on picking up Kawhi. I'm terrified.
All right. That'll do it for our last regular season edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. Thank you all for tuning in with us during the course of the regular season. We will continue to have shows during the playoffs, and our shows will align with the NBA calendar, which means there will be no shows on Monday. There are no NBA games on Monday. We will be back on Tuesday to break down some of the play-in games and the injury report around that. Until then, though, we hope everybody enjoys the weekend. Of course, if you're interested in supporting our content, the best way to do so is to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Help us reach our goal of getting to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the NBA season. We're closing in on that number. Would love your help in getting to that number. Also, if you are interested in any of our premium content, checking out our Best Ball Playoff Rankings, the premium podcast, participating in the Discord, getting ready for playoff DFS, you can check out establishedrun.com/subscribe-MBA for more details on all of our premium products. And if you are interested in supporting this free content and keeping it free, the best way to do so is to smash that like button and feed that algorithm, which helps feed our families and allows us to feed you the NBA injury information analysis you need each and every day to set your DFS lineups, your season-long lineups, and make your spread bets and your prop bets. So smash that like button, help us feed our families by feeding that algorithm. Everybody have a great weekend. Nom, 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 nom. We'll see you on Tuesday.